Hello and welcome to Band of Bettors, a betting show for sports fans looking to be more data-driven. I'm Brad Kronthal here with Spencer Kronthal, my brother. We're with Alloy Sports and really excited for Week 6 in the NFL. What a Week 5 brought. Spencer, how you feeling today?
What another awesome week in the NFL. A lot of close games. Primetime games were awesome. KC Las Vegas coming down to the wire. Baltimore Cincinnati, Justin Tucker coming down to the wire as well.
So I think the best place to start is our opening act, our favorite or most memorable moments of Week 5, and I'll let you kick it off.
So kind of didn't bury the lead there. I'm all about primetime. Now, while Kansas City, Oakland, Kansas City, Las Vegas, however you want to call it, was an awesome game last night. I'm looking at Justin Tucker.
However you want to call it. It's Las Vegas.
Depends on the day. Depends on the day. Justin Tucker was awesome. You come down, end of the game, you got Justin Tucker on your side if you're Baltimore. You know the game's over. 43-yard field goal, that was a piece of cake at that point. The one that was impressive was the 58-yarder before, and even that was right down the middle. Guy like Justin Tucker on the team just shows you the magnitude of how important a kicker can be. We look at Cleveland. Cade York misses the one at the end of the line. Obviously, last week, we had the double doink over in the London game. And those are just a couple quick examples. Having Justin Tucker takes that win probability once you cross the 50 to essentially 100% as long as the game's within 3. He is automatic.
Automatic tuck. I think you love that word, double doink, also. I think my most memorable moment is not a favorite moment of mine because it was miserable to watch, but it was the NFL refs making their imprint on the outcomes of games again. I'd like to say this trend is continuing to get worse, but it is just terrible. It can't get any worse than what it is right now. There needs to be a change here. Talking about Grady Jarrett and the Atlanta Falcons tackling Tom Brady for a sack, that is unnecessary roughness. It's a tackle in tackle football. If we're not allowed to tackle in tackle football, what are we doing? Jerome Boger botched that. And then you go to the Monday night game, Chiefs and Raiders. Chris Jones with the sack on Derek Carr. Tackled him. To tackle in tackle football, called unnecessary roughness. And then the refs it was just a debacle after that because once the refs make a bad call and the home fans feel it, they just try and make up for it the rest of the game. So the entire game was makeup call, then the other team's makeup call, then we got a makeup call for that makeup call, and it's just the refs are deciding everything, which is a huge role in the games. I mean, I feel for the players, the coaches that are putting their heart and soul into the games, but I'm also feeling for myself as a bettor. If I'm betting on the Bucks or the Falcons and that play outcomes that game, I'm not feeling great about that, and it's really impacting people with large bankrolls and units on each game. Didn't love that. And then, of course, in the Monday night game, the holding on the defense for the field goal that Kansas City gets late in the game. I mean, it's just an absolute debacle. The NFL officiating, you need to do better. Just stop throwing flags. It's either tackle football or we move to something else. So I'm absolutely exhausted with watching these games where officials are coming in with absolutely ludicrous calls that have nothing to do with what's going on. So now that I got that off my chest, let's go back to our receipts from Week 5. These were our picks. We used BetSnap. Obviously, let's take a look at how we did. Spencer, I'm going to begin with you. You can see
Awesome.
him on the screen.
So last week was a good week. So I went with my Detroit Lions strategy, which, of course, backfired for the Detroit Lions, but hit overall in the week going 4-2. So this strategy that I built on Alloy consisted of teams with strong running games and high-scoring offenses that were playing on the road. So obviously we had the cover with Dallas. You could say the Cooper Rush train rolls on, but, this is all about the running game with Dallas and the defense. Really stepped up and played. Rush just didn't mess up. Looking at Detroit, the namesake of the strategy couldn't have come out flatter.
Yeah, you had 2 picks on Detroit.
Yeah, that was an error on my part. That was only supposed to be one game. I believe I also had 2 units on another game where.
Oh, you got Dallas there too, so it made up for it a little bit.
But both mistakes on my part. I think I double pressed. I got real excited about those 2 games.
A double doink, if you will.
Glad to see they canceled out. And then Atlanta coming close. Seattle was one I was really excited at the end. Did not expect to see a Taysom Hill breakaway touchdown. If anything, was thinking that game was in the books. Maybe a field goal wins it for New Orleans. But nice to see the Bears finally covering for me. I know, Brad, you had a push on that one, depending on the odds that you closed in. But I was able to get the win, locking in that 7.5 value over at Caesars.
Yeah, good week for you. I wish I had that. So let's go to my receipts. It's always great to start your week out with a win, whether you get it out on Thursday night, especially those one-off games when it's either a Thursday night or a London game where there's no other games that you can kind of justify saying, well, I lost this one, but this game's about to be a hit for me. Like those Thursday night games. When you lose a Thursday night bet, it just feels like the world just came crashing down because there's no other games that you could possibly have a play on for the next few days. So starting out with that London win, I mean, the Giants, who would have thought they'd have covered the money line, man? Just winning that was awesome. Cleveland, that's one that my intuition honestly did not like. I liked the Chargers in that game. Like you mentioned before, if there was a Cade York make, they win that one outright. Again, the value of getting in early. So we're making some plays early in the week. Cleveland was +3, but if you came in late, the odds shifted to, 1 or 1.5. So the Chargers would have covered, if you got a late line. So get in early for some lines when you see some value. There's my unfortunate Bears push. Again, I love Seattle too last week. I loved them. I just, it was a close game. They should have had a cover there and then just didn't get it done. Atlanta, we'll talk about them later, but they have absolutely destroyed it, ATS, this year in a good way. Pittsburgh, tough loss. I mean, that was over before it even started. I loved Arizona last week too, so that was a nice win for me. Dallas, good win as well. I used the ground and pound strategy we created with our Alloy forecast last week. And nod directs Ryan, teams, really rushing the ball well. Last, I made a play, had nothing to do with the strategy. It was an over-under, but I thought the Ravens and Bengals would have more of a shootout. It was not, so I lost that. But my ATS bets this week went 5-2-1, so very pleased with that result, even though I should have been 6-2, should have gotten a better line with the Bears. So successful week 5 in the NFL. And one thing that I was kind of alluding to before is now you kind of have the sample size. Let's see how some of these teams are performing this year. So these are the NFL ATS records. And at the top, who would have guessed that the Atlanta Falcons 5-0 this year? Giants 4-1, Dallas 4-1, the Chargers 4-1. So really, really interesting. If I wanted to do a trivia, but I didn't want to throw you under the bus and make you look like non-professional, Spencer. What do you think of the top team records this season, ATS? Did you know it was Atlanta? Tell the truth.
Of course. No, I did not. I did not know it was Atlanta. What's interesting to me is, you got two teams near the top of the NFC East, Giants and the Cowboys, both with their record mirroring their against the spread record. Philly's not too far behind at 3-2. Obviously, they're leading the division now. So the NFC East not only performing well, in season, but also doing their own against the spread. We won't include Washington. They're down near the bottom of these rankings as they are in the division, though.
Yeah, and these are the type of stats that help you factor in confidence when placing a bet. When you build a strategy on Alloy, when you're looking at teams that you might be 50-50 on, you look at the ATS records, how they performed against tougher teams or when they're heavy underdogs or heavy favorites, how they performed in those types of matchups. And these just give you more of that confidence boost when placing those bets if you feel like these teams can keep it close and cover the spread. Because at the end of the day, that's all you care about is making money from those bets. So I did want to come off and come back to our 2-shot here. Thursday Night Football. Last week, I tried to wipe my memory of it. Denver and Indianapolis, that was one of the worst quarterbacks games I may have ever seen in my life. And we grew up watching Kyle Bowler here in Baltimore. No offense, Kyle, but that was, Matt Ryan and Russell Wilson just were trying to one-up themselves for being the worst quarterback in that game, and it was getting absolutely brutal. This week, in your city of Chicago, we got the Commanders and the Bears. Last spread I saw was Commanders are +1. So essentially an even line. To me, these two teams are scary because I feel like whenever I bet on them, they never come through. So Thursday Night Football, there's one strategy that actually has a play on this game. One of our preloaded strategies, I believe. No, one of our forecast strategies. It was the Yeah Boy strategy from week 3. It likes Washington. It has a win percentage of 60% for close underdog games. So I'm staying away as a personal play, but what are your thoughts for your Bears this week?
Well, it should be interesting. Covered the spread last week. I think the Bears always manage to keep it interesting. And, it's something where I think I've been betting them the last 2 weeks. I want to stay away. It's a toss-up. You're not really getting much value out of the spread as well. And frankly, I have no idea who's going to win this matchup. You look at Washington, and it's, which team's going to show up, which Carson Wentz is going to show up. Obviously, it's been much more of the negative side this year. The Bears' offense is in disarray. The running backs are presumably solid, but Justin Fields has seemed to take a major step back, this year with the offense. This is probably one I won't be going to Soldier Field. I also won't be placing a bet on it.
Yeah, and you know what the problem is in Washington? One word. Quarterback. That's from the head coach. That's Ron Rivera. What a mess they have, as they usually do in Washington, just right up the road here from where I am in Baltimore. They are a mess. Matt Rule got fired this week, and my tie-in here is he's the first head coach fired. Is Ron Rivera, the next guy? He just threw his quarterback under the bus. And I think the interesting response to that is, I think the reporter followed up with when he said the quarterback's the problem. The NFC says great quarterbacks. The follow-up question, which was great, was, well, you brought him in here. You're also, bringing in the talent. He's not just the head coach with the GM doing that. Rivera's responsible for the roster. They're in disarray as they usually are. What do you think about Rivera? Does he even make it the whole season with Washington?
Well, I think the key thing you pointed out there was, tying the head coach's fate to the quarterback. With the power that a lot of coaches have, obviously Riverboat Ron being one of them, when he came over, to Washington, came in with a lot of power. That front office was a bit in disarray when he came over. He's very powerful in the organization. Tying his stakes to Carson Wentz, I think the leash is a little bit longer just because the organization is in so much flux. But if the organization was in better standing, yeah, I think he's absolutely on the hot seat. Obviously, Wentz has not performed. That's the guy he wanted to bring in. So I think he's definitely on the hot seat. I think there are definitely some coaches whose seats might be a little bit warmer than his, though, at this point.
Who knows what's going on there in Washington. But if you are interested in betting this game, Washington is 1-4 ATS this season. This game is basically a toss-up. It's basically a pick 'em at this point. And Chicago is 2-1. If you're Spencer, you got a 2 on the win. If you're me, you got the 1 on the push last week. Great chance. What we do at Alloy, with the Alloy app, you're able to build your own sports betting strategies. We push new ones every week that are successful. Like I said last week, using the ground and pound strategy we pushed out, I went 5-2-1. This week, new set of games. It's forecast time. Spencer, are there any strategies or stats or filters in particular that you're looking towards this week?
Yeah. So, coming off a successful week, I think it would be a little bit foolish to not look at the same exact strategy that got us here. The Lions got killed, so I probably got to rename it. No longer the Detroit Lions strategy name TBD. But essentially, we're looking at high-scoring offenses that are running the ball well. And the first one that comes up, we're looking close underdogs, Jacksonville against Indy. Where I see, obviously, Jacksonville's been in a bit of a rut. They're playing on the road against Indy. They're laying 2.5 points right now. I think it's time for a bounce back. Get Trevor Lawrence back on top. ETN picked up some more of the slack this past week, but combining him, James Robinson get back on track. I like Jacksonville over Indy to cover the spread. And then looking at my heavy underdogs, for this strategy, it's also got some potential. And the team that I'm looking at taking from a heavy underdog standpoint is looking at Carolina against the Rams. Carolina's currently plus 10.5. You look at this team,
without Matt Rule, you like Carolina to cover.
I'm thinking a bounce back game. Baker hasn't looked too great. Energize the team, prove it, wasn't just the talent on the field. LA hasn't looked too strong either. 10.5 points is a lot to cover. I think they're going to do it.
Okay, so you trust Steve Wilkes, the interim head coach of Carolina, to come in and lose. I mean, what would you say if you're, a bettor? How funny would that be? Steve, just lose by 10 or less, baby. Let's get it done. Cover for me. That's all you got to do.
We believe in Steve. Laying 10 points.
That might be the worst slogan I've ever heard. All right. Any other games you're looking at this week? At the moment, early in the week, early lines.
I think one that's pretty intriguing is that NFC East battle for supremacy right now. I know I'm not including the Giants in that, but Dallas against Philly. Right now the spread's 5.5 going in Philly's favor. Could see this eking a little bit in Dallas's favor. Could see that spread starting to trend more, making Dallas potentially a close underdog in the Alloy system where it gets interesting.
Yeah.
Could be a play to get some value in it now if you think the line's moving, closer towards even, maybe around the 4.5 point, underdog for Dallas.
Awesome. And there's one game in particular, don't mention it yet, the game of the week that I want to bring us back to after I share my picks. I think it's quite obvious what that game is, but I'm going to go to my strategies this week, and I'm going to kind of play a similar role to what you did. And I like to take all the strategies I built. Right now I built one today, so it's 6, but I like to compare those. Now, if I have a majority of strategies pointing towards a specific team, I obviously like to make a play there. But last week, used the ground and pound strategy, power rushing game. I like that strategy a lot. So the first game I like, just like you, Jacksonville, 2.5 is where the lines are right now. Like you said, it's got to be a Trevor Lawrence bounce back. Last week against Houston, they just can't beat Houston, man. I mean, the Jaguars, I think it's 9 straight losses to the Texans. Don't know what it is. Some bad juju going on whenever they play Houston. Lawrence had a passer rating of 54. Just horrible. His worst of the season. Now they play Indy again. I think and just to throw some stats out there, Lawrence's passer rating against Indy the first go round on September 18th was 121.5. So his best passer rating of the season in that game, even better than the Chargers game. They won 24-0. I see a bounce back. The Colts with I don't even know how to describe that game against the Broncos. Just miserable. I think the Jaguars, Doug Peterson, Trevor Lawrence get it going again in that matter. Another game I really like, Seattle, seeing +3 right now. Geno Smith, have a lot of confidence in him. I really like what Geno's doing with the Seahawks. I'm looking up the ratings for the NFL this season for quarterbacks. He's the best one. 113.1 I'm seeing. Second is Mahomes. Third is Tua. Fourth is Josh Allen. If there was a bet who would have the best passer rating throughout the first 5 weeks of the season, ain't no way anyone's betting on Geno Smith. So I like Seattle in this game as close underdogs as well. And just to tell you what the numbers were for close underdogs in the ground and pound strategy, 61.94% since 2019, 20% return on investment. I like those numbers. I'm sticking with them. Built a new strategy today. I'm calling it the chain mover, really built on receiving, strong receivers that are making receptions, clutch receptions, and getting first downs when they matter. So the one game that populates at the moment is Bucks at Steelers, Bucks -8. This strategy is for heavy favorites, and it's hit 63% of the time since 2019 with a 21% return on investment. I like the Bucks. I think the defense is going to have a field day with Kenny Pickett. I was really, really high on the Steelers last week covering the spread against Buffalo. It just seemed like one of those games where Pittsburgh doesn't lose by 14. The games they're supposed to win, they play them ugly and they win, but the games they're supposed to get blown out, they keep them really close. And I thought that would happen. That obviously did not happen. I think the Bucks will have a field day, and I love that bet. Another one to keep an eye on. It's not populating here yet because it's right on the border. It's Ravens -5 at the Giants, which I found to be a really interesting line. You know, the Giants coming off a win against the Packers in London, and now they're 5-point underdogs at home against the Ravens, who have really struggled offensively in the second half of games. Defensively, it's been a struggle all season. It's a funky line, but the strategy likes the Ravens in this game to cover the spread. I'm going to monitor that one throughout the week. I could only see it going down. I can't see the Ravens being favored more and more, especially in New York. But Bucks and Ravens with the new strategy, the chain mover strategy. And those are my plays today when it comes to Alloy and the Alloy app. So I think the one game that we negated to talk about and saved the best for last is the game of the week. Chiefs, Bills. Rematch of the playoffs of last year. One of the best playoff games I've ever seen in the AFC divisional round. 3 touchdowns scored in the final 2 minutes. A field goal as time expired by Harrison Butker. Let's go back, please. Gabe Davis, 27-yard touchdown pass from Josh Allen with 1:54 left. 2-point conversion good. That put Buffalo up 29-26. Seconds later, Tyreek Hill catches a 64-yard touchdown pass from Mahomes. 33-29, Kansas City. Less than a minute later, Gabe Davis, a 19-yard touchdown pass from Josh Allen. This is with 13 seconds left. The game was over, but the Chiefs get in field goal range. Harrison Butker nails a 49-yarder, sends it to overtime, where Patrick Mahomes hits Travis Kelce, who else, for an 8-yard touchdown pass. Kelce had 4 touchdowns the other night, or last night on Monday Night Football. Absolutely incredible performance by him. I mean, who else are they going to go to at the goal line? It's always Kelce, and he's still always open. So, game of the week, rematch, Bills, Chiefs. Thoughts?
It's a monster. This is what you're waiting for, as a football fan. The question I have is who's hitting their stride more, Allen or Mahomes? I think both are coming off 4 touchdowns. Obviously, Allen did a lot of his damage in the first half, just airing the ball out. Mahomes real methodical with Kelce in the red zone. I think Kelce had 7 catches. 4 of them were for touchdowns. Under 30 yards total. Just pinpoint surgical at that point. I think KC's going to take it. I think Mahomes, Kelce are hitting their stride, for no other reason that I think KC might get the ball last. I think at this point, it's as much of a coin flip as to who's getting the ball last in this matchup. Because with these 2 offenses, it's absolutely going to be a shootout.
Yeah, I mean, you can't have a better performance than what Josh Allen did last week in the first half against the Steelers. He absolutely annihilated them. Those are full game numbers. Those are 2-week numbers that he put up really in the first half. I'm going to share another screen here. These, according to FanDuel, are the NFL MVP odds at the moment. So Josh Allen, plus 175. He's your leader. Cannot disagree with that. Mahomes is second at plus 400. I'm not saying we're putting a futures bet today, but you clearly see sportsbooks notice these are the top 2 valuable players in the NFL. They're going head-to-head in week 6. I have strategies that like both teams. I have contradicting strategies. This is a tough game to bet. I am just not sure where I'm leaning at the moment. If I had to use my intuition, I like the Bills, honestly. I don't see Josh Allen's one of those quarterbacks that just will your team to a win. And I thought he did it last year in the playoffs. There is nothing more he could have done. He was nothing short of inhuman that game, just bringing Buffalo to will them to a win with 13 seconds left. That would win 99.9% of games, except when you're playing Patrick Mahomes. I think this might come down to another crazy play with the officials where, it'll be a toss-up. My intuition says Buffalo. I don't have a play on it right now. How about you?
Yeah, I'm ready to watch. Not ready to bet on this one yet. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, and we do have one cool thing with Alloy. So those are our picks this week. Check out our Alloy forecast. That'll be coming live on Thursday, as it does every week. We're pumping a new strategy. Probably will be the one I just mentioned before. So definitely stay tuned for that. So one thing we started is a pick 'em pool, totally free, risk-free to join. This is really fun. So we're going to let you make your picks, prove your worth and how good you are as a bettor, risk-free. We are giving out weekly prizes for the weekly winner. So starting in week 6, the first week will be a $100 giveaway. And from there, we'll find some more fun prizes. But betting, picking the games, ATS, winner gets a prize. Week 6 is $100. This is a really fun competition. And we've got a lot of people on it that are pumped and they're competitive. So, totally free to join. Check it out. It's on our Twitter page. It's pinned. So check out at Alloy Sports for that. And then, of course, at Band of Bettors Twitter as well, as we'll share that. Any closing thoughts before week 6? The answer has to be yes, Spencer. You can't have no closing thoughts. This is a sports betting show.
Well, first off, I thought that the game of the week was going to be that Commanders-Bears game. But
Yeah.
outside of that, I mean, we've got some awesome matchups. We highlighted KC Buffalo. We highlighted, the Eagles Dallas. Going to be a lot of awesome matchups ahead of us. I'm excited for another great week of football.
Absolutely. I think there's going to be some bounce backs this week. It's just going to be, where does that come from? Where's the regression? And continue to find use in the data as it becomes more of a sample size this season. There's no better time than now to get in on the Alloy app and check that out, because data is essential to winning bets for us, and we see it as a long-term play, for everybody, and we let you do that. So really excited for week 6. Early in the week, it's so much fun to get in before those lines shift and other people get screwed. Talking about you who bet the Browns at +1.5 last week and lost on that. So really excited for week 6. Check us out at Band of Bettors, at Alloy Sports, and we'll see you again next week. Enjoy the football this weekend.